Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan, coming up in the next hour. As the tariff deadline ends, Trump sets 10% to 41% reciprocal tariffs on dozens of countries' exports, increases tariff on Canada to 35% from 25%. Global stocks mostly fall ahead of big Trump tariff deadline despite strong earnings from US tech giants Microsoft and Meta as markets girded. US Special Envoy Witkoff meets Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a bid to salvage troop stocks, also to visit Gaza to inspect aid delivery. Heavy rain, flash floods hit New York and New Jersey. State of emergency declared, over 40 million people at risk. And in cricket, Karun Nair holds fort as India stay afloat on rain-marred opening day against England on the fifth and final test at the Oval. Our top story, US President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Thursday imposing new tariffs of up to 41% on imports from over 70 countries. The policy includes certain exemptions. Goods that are loaded onto ships by August 7 and reach the US by October 5 will not be subject to the new rates provided they were already in transit. However, in a minor reprieve, the White House said the measures will take effect in a week. Trump had set a deadline of August 1st to strike deals before the levies would take effect. Most of these new tariff hikes were first announced in April when Trump slapped a minimum 10% levy on goods from almost every country in the world, citing unfair trade practices and US deficits. However, Washington then postponed implementation amid frantic series of negotiations alongside announcement of new duties and deals with some partners. And some of the first tariffs targeting China, Canada and Mexico were subsequently amended, increased or postponed. Alongside Canada, the White House has also released updated tariff rates for dozens of other countries with the new levies. So this is the breakdown of the reciprocal tariff rates: 41% tariff on Syria, 35% Iraq, Serbia, 30% tariff Algeria, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Libya, South Africa, and 25% tariff on these countries, and 20% tariff on Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Vietnam, 19% on these countries including Malaysia, Indonesia, and then 15% tariff on Israel, Japan, Turkey, Nigeria, Ghana, and many others, and 10% on Brazil, UK, 41% tariff, like we said, on Syria, 40% on Myanmar, 39% on Switzerland. So highest tariff of 41% on Syria. Trump also signed an executive order increasing tariffs on Canadian goods to 35% from 25% on all products not covered by the US-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. The new levies come into effect from August 1st. The increased tariff comes after Trump told reporters that Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney reached out ahead of an August 1st tariff deadline, but no conversations between the two took place. The move is the latest blow in a month-long tariff war which Trump initiated shortly after taking power. The Canadian leader previously said trade talks with Washington had been constructive, but the talks may not conclude by the deadline. Talks between the two countries were at intense phase, he added, but a deal that would remove all US tariffs was unlikely. Meanwhile, Donald Trump gave Mexico a 90-day reprieve from higher tariffs to negotiate a broader trade deal. The extension, which avoids a 30% tariff on most Mexican non-automotive and non-metal goods compliant with the US-Mexico-Canada agreement on trade, came after a Thursday morning call between Trump and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. He confirmed that the current tariffs, including a 25% duty on fentanyl-related goods and cars and a 50% levy on steel, aluminium and copper, will remain unchanged throughout the extension period. He further noted that Mexico had agreed to immediately eliminate its non-tariff trade barriers, which had previously hindered cross-border commerce. All right, we'll go across to DD India's Akshay Dongre is joining us live from Delhi. He has more information on this. Good morning, Akshay. From 1st August deadline to these new tariffs by Donald Trump, tell us what all countries and the sectors too are likely to be affected the most by these new tariffs.
Well, Abhishek, it seems that the entire world, almost in its entirety, is somewhere or the other way impacted by these, unilateral tariffs and irrational tariffs that have been implemented by the U.S. government. We are yet to see because it's quite a comprehensive topic, because a person decided one day that he wants to go on a march applying tariffs on every other country, which was never done by the U.S. market in similar kind of manner, and in such a blanket tariff implementation. First, a 10% baseline tariff was implemented in the month of March. Rather in the month of April. But now what we are seeing is it depends. If Donald Trump is happy with a country, that country gets lower tariffs. If Donald Trump is somewhere not personally pleased with that country, the way it does business, or the way it carries out itself, the way even if you are a country that is a harborer of terrorism, Donald Trump will be happy with you unless you do something to make him angry, or you do not side with him with whatever he says. So now it seems that the U.S. Government at present is making rules that unless you agree with what Donald Trump says, we will try to do trade with you. Still, you'll get some tariff. But if you just deny anything, or rather disagree with anything that Donald Trump says, then there will be a heavy tariff on you. So it's not about a country, geopolitical ties, trade ties, or any kind of quid pro quo with the US in terms of trade, but it's clearly on whims and fancies of an old man who is occupying at this point the one of the highest chairs in the US. So in fact, the highest chair. He's the president of the United States. But the way he has been conducting the entire business has rather questioned the entire office, because you cannot pick up a call and then speak to a leader, and if you do not have a good conversation, then implement a 10% tariff on that country. You not only risk risk trade with that country, you also risk your reliability and your status as a country that can be relied upon. So all that has gone down the drain in the last few days since all of this started, and unilaterally or erratically, or rather in an impulsive manner, Abhishek, tariffs have been implemented on our countries from friends to foes. Everyone has been on the target, every kind of industry. So only the industries such as that are required by the US are exempted, but any country that is required by some other country, there is no consideration for that when it comes to the tariff implementation. So the situation has been really confusing, and today on 1st of August, we'll really get to see the scale of these tariffs and the impact that it will have on global economies now.
Pretty complicated also, Akshay, and it keeps changing in stance. But given the 7-day window now before these new tariffs kick in, are we seeing any signs of back-channel diplomacy or maybe pushback from the affected nations?
Well, yes, there are certain countries that do not have any other option, Abhishek, but to do business with the US. For example, there are countries that do not want to do business, a lot of business with China. Many of the countries are not aligned to do a lot of business with China. They have been for decades. For decades they have been supporting the US when it comes to geopolitics, when it comes to other things. But suddenly the US president comes and says that even if you're our allies, even you have sacrificed for us, or even if you have given up your geopolitical gains to be our ally and be threatened with other bigger countries, still will put some tariffs on you. still we will put tariffs on you, and as long as you do not agree with or rather maintain good relations with our supreme leader, the quote unquote supreme leader, the president of the US, we will still put tariffs on you and put you in a position where you now cannot do trade with China, and you are now in a situation where you have to do trade with the US, even with higher tariffs. So this is an old saying that to be an enemy of the US is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. And it seems that that is being implemented on the ground now, and that is being seen by the rest of the world, that how fatal can it be to simply rely on one country, because you never know what kind of a president gets elected the next time. He may or may not be completely against or for that country. So it's all a gamble now. So it seems that this decision by Donald Trump is really going to shape the new world order and the new geopolitics and new alliances across the world.
Absolutely, and also because of this, stock market also takes a beating because of these tariffs. All right, Akshay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your inputs. As the global concern over the humanitarian crisis in Gaza intensifies, U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, and U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, are set to visit an aid distribution site in Gaza today. This will be Witkoff's second visit to Gaza this year. Earlier, the U.S. Special Envoy met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Thursday. Witkoff has been the top U.S. representative in indirect negotiations between Israel and Hamas for a ceasefire and hostage release deal. But talks in Doha broke down last week, and Israel and the United States recalled their delegations. Earlier, Steve Witkoff visited Gaza in January. Israel is under mounting international pressure to agree to a ceasefire and allow the world to flood Gaza with food, with Canada and Portugal, the latest Western governments, to announce plans to recognize a Palestinian state. And U.S. President on Thursday described the situation in Gaza as terrible. He said the United States recently contributed $60 million for food aid, but Hamas diverted money and food resources. Take a listen.
Oh, it's terrible what's occurring there, yeah. It's a terrible thing. People are very hungry. You know, the United States gave $60 million for food, and it's a shame because nobody, I don't see the results of it. And we gave it to people that in theory are watching over it fairly closely. We wanted Israel to watch over it. Part of the problem is Hamas is taking the money and they're taking the food. But we gave $60 million a couple of weeks ago. Nobody said anything about it.
And more nations joined a growing list of countries recognizing a Palestinian state in the year since recent Israel-Hamas conflict began after October 7. About 145 of the 193 member states of the United Nations recognize Palestine as a state, but only a handful of 27 European Union members did so before October 7, mostly former communist countries as well as Sweden and Cyprus. The decision to recognize Palestinian statehood by Ireland, Spain and Norway, three major European nations, was mostly symbolic, but it made Israel appear more isolated on the international stage. Donald Trump is standing firm behind Israel. Trump criticized Canada's decision to recognize Palestine and placed the blame for the crisis squarely on Hamas. Take a listen.
Well, we're going to see. No, I didn't like what they said, but, that's their opinion. I didn't like that. Not a deal breaker, but we haven't spoken to Canada today. He's called, and we'll see. But we have made a few deals today that are excellent deals for the country. We're taking in literally trillions of dollars for the country.
But Germany came from behind to stand with Israel as Germany's Foreign Minister Johann Waidfeld said that Israel was in danger of becoming isolated and he was trying to prevent that. Waidfeld met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem on Thursday. He said negotiations for a two-state solution must begin, while for Germany, the recognition of a Palestinian state would come at the end of that process. He also said the European Union was discussing measures that would have painful consequences for Israel, though he condemned the catastrophic humanitarian situation in Gaza. All right, we are slipping into a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Donald Trump threatens sanctions on Russia if no deal reached by August 8 deadline. Rwanda and Congo hold first oversight meeting in Washington to advance peace deal brokered by the US. And 1,000-year-old Chancey tomb discovered beneath Lima during gas pipeline work. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Updates now on Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia launched military strikes on Ukrainian capital Kiev on Thursday. Russia's defense ministry said it targeted and hit Ukrainian military airfields and ammunition depots, as well as businesses linked to what it called Kiev's military-industrial complex. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky praised emergency services for their continued efforts to restore life after the attacks. City authorities announced a day of mourning to be held on Friday. Meanwhile, Kiev and Moscow have held 3 rounds of talks in Istanbul this year that yielded exchanges of prisoners and bodies, but no breakthrough to defuse the conflict. On Thursday, US President Donald Trump said he is planning to impose sanctions on Moscow if no agreement can be reached. Trump has given Russian President Vladimir Putin until August 8 to make a deal, or else he will respond with economic pressure.
Yeah, we're going to put sanctions. I don't know that sanctions bother him. You know, they know about sanctions. I know better than anybody about sanctions and tariffs and everything else. I don't know if that has any effect, but we're going to do it. Europe is extremely upset. But this is a war that should have never happened. This is a war that wouldn't have happened if I were president. And this is Biden's war. This was a stupid war to get into. Should have never gotten into this war.
On Iran's nuclear program, Donald Trump said that Iran is behaving very badly. The statement came after Tehran adopted a tougher stance and set new conditions for restarting nuclear negotiations.
Well, Iran has been acting very badly. They were decimated. Their nuclear capability, that potential which could have happened within 3 or 4 weeks, was decimated. It's been obliterated. The Atomic Energy Commission said the place is just decimated. Now they can start again, but they'd start in different sites because they were hit.
And US President Donald Trump has issued a stern warning to top pharmaceutical companies, urging action to address the high cost of prescription drugs in the United States within 60 days. In a series of letters shared on Truth Social on Thursday, Trump revealed he had contacted 17 major drug makers, including Pfizer, GSK, Eli Lilly, Regeneron, Merck and Novo Nordisk. Trump's message follows his May executive order reviving a controversial plan called the Most Favored Nation policy. Under this plan, the prices of certain prescription medicines in the US would be tied to much lower prices in other developed countries. Trump said if the companies failed to act, he would deploy every tool in arsenal to protect American families from continued abusive drug pricing practices. Now, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo held the first meeting of a joint oversight committee on Thursday, taking a step towards implementing a peace deal agreed last month in Washington, even as other commitments are yet to be fulfilled. The African Union, Qatar and the United States joined the meeting of the committee in Washington, which was established as a forum to deal with implementation and dispute resolution of the peace agreement. The deal in June between Rwanda and Congo marked a breakthrough in talks held by US President Donald Trump's administration, which aims to bring an end to fighting that has killed thousands and attracted billions of dollars of Western investment to a region rich in tantalum, gold, cobalt, copper, lithium and other minerals. In Washington agreement, the two African countries pledged to implement a 2024 deal that would see Rwandan troops withdraw from eastern Congo within 90 days. Now, gas pipeline construction in Lima, Peru led to the surprise discovery of a 1,000-year-old tomb believed to be from the ancient Chankay culture. Archaeologists found a funerary bundle, pottery and clay vessels hinting at a possible pre-Hispanic cemetery below the city, known for their striking textiles and black and white ceramics. The Chankay lived along Peru's central coast before the Inca took over in the 15th century. Finds like these are common during urban development, revealing Peru's buried past one dig at a time. US President Donald Trump is launching one of the largest construction projects at the White House in more than a century. It's a massive 90,000 square foot ballroom set to host official state events and receptions. The $200 million project, funded by Trump and private donors, will begin in September and replace the East Wing. The neoclassical structure will seat up to 650 guests and mirror the White House's iconic facade. Trump, known for his opulent taste, say the ballroom will reflect his signature style, drawing inspiration from his properties like Mar-a-Lago and Turnberry, and be completed before the end of his second term in 2029. Now, El Salvador's Congress on Thursday passed a constitutional reform to abolish presidential term limits and extend the presidential term from 5 to 6 years. The move clears the way for President Nayib Bukele, backed by a strong parliamentary majority, to run indefinitely. The reform was fast-tracked and approved by a vote of 57 in favour and 3 against. Now, London's Heathrow Airport has unveiled a massive €49 billion expansion plan, including a third runway and new terminals in one of Europe's most ambitious airport projects in decades. The privately funded plan includes a €21 billion third runway and billions more for modernization and a new terminal. Heathrow says the expansion could nearly double passenger capacity to 150 million per year and add 30 new routes. Despite opposition from environmental groups and local residents, the UK's Labour government backs the plan as part of its strategy to boost economic growth. A rival bid from Aurora Group, proposing a cheaper alternative, has also been submitted. Global weather updates now. First up from India. The Delhi NCR region is likely to experience light to moderate rainfall today, according to the India Met Department. The IMD has forecast light rainfall for Delhi NCR till August 5 in its bulletin. It also warned of heavy to very heavy rainfall over the northeast region during the next 7 days. Meanwhile, Himachal Pradesh continues to struggle under the weight of the ongoing monsoon. Incessant rains have caused widespread damage to public infrastructure and triggered a rise in casualties across the hill state. In Madhya Pradesh, several districts situated near rivers are facing flood-like situations, with hundreds of villages submerged. Gwalior-Chambal region is among the worst hit due to rising water levels in the Chambal River, triggered by water releases from Rajasthan's Kota Barrage and Nona Dam. Heavy rains across Rajasthan have led to rivers like Chambal and Parvati breaching danger levels. In Dholpur, the Chambal River is flowing 12 meters above the danger mark, submerging several areas. The army has been roped in for the rescue efforts. A state of emergency has been declared in New York City and New Jersey as severe thunderstorms bring heavy rain and flash flooding from New York to Washington, D.C. Cities of New Jersey and New York continue to see the significant impacts of floods, with highways inundated, transit delays mounting and emergency crews responding to multiple flood-related incidents. In New York, flash flooding briefly closed major roadways, delayed flights across the region and inundated train stations throughout the metropolitan area just as the evening rush hour approached. The Weather Service attributed the storm threat to a cold front, bringing the combination of unstable air mass and atmospheric pressure to the region. The flash flooding not only disturbed the streets but also created ruckus in the subway system. Flooding in New York City created a waterfall in the underground tunnels on the subway system on Thursday. The video from social media has gone viral, which shows inside and outside of train cars under a curtain of water. In another video, cars navigating through the flooded streets in New York could be seen after heavy rain swept through the city, causing localized flooding. Owing to the alarming situation, New York Governor Kathy Hochul has declared a state of emergency for areas facing the threat of flash floods. Extreme rains and flooding across northern China have killed 60 people, more than half of them at a care home for the elderly in a suburb of Beijing, which has grappled with its deadliest flood disaster in years. Torrential rains began a week ago and peaked around Beijing and surrounding provinces since Monday. Miyun district saw rainfall of up to 22.6 inches. Authorities were alerted about people trapped in the facility early on Monday, but rescue efforts were hampered by torrents of water in the streets, said Miyun's top official Yu Weigu. Residents in the southwestern Chinese city of Chongqing sought refuge in subway stations as temperatures soared to 41.5 degrees Celsius, prompting authorities to issue a red alert for extreme heat. In subway station, people gathered to escape the sweltering heat, napping and playing cards in the cool air-conditioned space. Tourists were also seen cooling off at fountains under mist sprayers and beneath a canopy made of hundreds of decorated bamboo hats. An infrared thermometer recorded a surface temperature of 129.2 Fahrenheit at a tourist site. Now, firefighters in Portugal were making steady progress in containing a major wildfire in the wooded and mountainous Aruca region. Crews were seen working near the town of Ceasefire, preventing the flames from spreading further into populated areas. Aruca, Ponte da Barca and Penamacor have burned 14,000 hectares so far, including 6,000 in Aruca alone. Over 550 firefighters remain on the ground in Aruca, with more than 500 deployed in Ponte da Barca as authorities continue to battle the flames under challenging conditions. The situation remains serious, but officials say containment efforts are progressing. Hundreds of firefighters struggled to put out wildfires raging in central Spain in the largest wave of blazes in the Iberian Peninsula so far this year after weeks of summer heat. In the western province of Cáceres, the fire has affected at least 2,500 hectares, prompting evacuation from homes scattered across the Camino Morisco area. In Spain's central province of Avila, shifting gusts of wind hindered efforts by firefighters and a special military unit. In Montbeltran, near Avila, farmer Blas Rodriguez fought back tears as he walked among scorched trees, his olive grove devastated by the fire. In other news, UNICEF has said that Bangladesh's first national multidimensional poverty index uncovers harsh realities for children and the people living in the country. According to the National Multidimensional Poverty Index released on Thursday, children are disproportionately impacted by deep-rooted challenges of poverty in Bangladesh, with almost 3 out of 10 children living in multidimensional poverty. The report underscores the urgent need to address child-specific deprivations in health, education and living standards that continue to undermine children's rights and potential. Overall, more than 39 million people in Bangladesh live in multidimensional poverty. Factors such as high inflation, lack of coordination across sectors and the recent civil unrest are hindering progress by limiting critical investments needed to address child poverty in all its dimensions. In other updates, Ecuador is considering possible visa restrictions for citizens from 45 countries, including Cuba and Haiti, in a bid to help the United States reduce illegal migration. During a visit to Quito, U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said similar restrictions on Chinese nationals traveling to the United States through Ecuador have reduced their entry at the southern border by 70%. Ecuador and the United States signed an agreement to facilitate the exchange of liaison officers to coordinate the delivery of security information for 18 months. Time now for another short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Monsoon session chaos continues. Opposition protests disrupt Parliament as Piyush Goyal clarified US tariff issue in Lok Sabha. India expands consular reach in US, 8 new application centers announced. And we'll get your report on August 1st, the day the non-cooperation movement united India in its first mass protest against British rule.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. And it fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of our top stories. As the tariff deadline ends, Trump sets 10% to 41% reciprocal tariffs on dozens of countries' exports, increases tariff on Canada to 35% from 25%. Global stocks mostly fall ahead of big Trump tariff deadline, despite strong earnings from US tech giants Microsoft and Meta as markets girded. US Special Envoy Witkoff meets Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu in a bid to salvage true stocks, also to visit Gaza to inspect aid delivery. Heavy rain, flash floods hit New York and New Jersey. State of emergency declared, over 40 million people at risk. And in cricket, Karun Nair holds fort as India stay afloat on rain-marred opening day against England on the 5th and final test at the Oval. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to visit his parliamentary constituency Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh on 2nd August to inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of multiple infrastructure and development projects valued at approximately Rs 2,200 crore. The projects aimed at boosting connectivity, urban development and public amenities in the region are part of ongoing efforts to transform Varanasi into a smart and sustainable city. Spanning sectors such as infrastructure, education, healthcare, tourism, cultural heritage and urban development, with key highlights including road and power upgrades, riverfront and beautification of 21 parks, 47 drinking water schemes under Jal Jeevan Mission, enhanced school and hospital facilities. Now, the monsoon session of Parliament continues to witness high drama in the national capital. Thursday saw repeated disruptions in both houses led by opposition protest. Amid the commotion, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal addressed the Lok Sabha, clarifying India's position on 25% tariff imposed by the United States. Here's a detailed report.
A stormy day in Parliament yet again. Both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha were marred by repeated disruptions on Thursday. Loud protests from opposition benches forced multiple adjournments throughout the day. The tension follows the conclusion of the high-voltage debate on Operation Sindoor the previous day. Amid the ruckus, Lok Sabha reconvened at 4 p.m. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal rose to address the House, speaking on a matter of critical economic importance: Washington's imposition of a 25% tariff on Indian goods under the administration of US President Donald Trump. The minister assured the House that India is closely evaluating the move and will act in the best interest of the nation.
वाणिज्य एवं उद्योग मंत्रालय निर्यातकों और उद्योग सहित सभी हितधारकों से संवाद कर इस विषय पर उनके आकलन की जानकारी ले रहा है। सरकार हमारे किसानों, श्रमिकों, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, उद्यमी, निर्यातकों, सूक्ष्म, लघु और मध्यम उद्योगों और उद्योग जगत के सभी हितधारकों के कल्याण की रक्षा और संवर्धन को सर्वोच्च महत्व देती है। हम अपने राष्ट्रीय हितों को सुरक्षित करने और आगे बढ़ाने के लिए सभी आवश्यक कदम उठाएंगे।
Piyush Goyal later made a similar statement in the Rajya Sabha. However, sloganeering by opposition MPs continued unabated, making it difficult for proceedings to continue. The din in both houses highlighted the deepening political divide. With no breakthrough in sight, both houses were eventually adjourned to reconvene at 11 a.m. on Friday. Dibyendu Mondol's report for DD India.
On today, the upper house of the parliament to take up the Carriage of Goods by Sea Bill 2025 for consideration and passing. The bill to provide for the responsibilities, liabilities, rights and immunities attached to carriers with respect to the carriage of goods by sea. The bill was passed by the Lok Sabha. Several papers will also be laid in the House. Union Home Minister Amit Shah will move the resolution related to the continuance in force of the proclamation dated 13 February 2025 in respect of Manipur. The lower house of the parliament or Lok Sabha to take up the Indian Ports Bill 2025 for consideration and passing. The bill to consolidate the law relating to ports promote integrated port development, facilitate ease of doing business and ensure the optimum utilization of India's coastline. All right, DD India's Dibyendu Mondal joins us to talk more on this. Good morning, Dibyendu. Both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha were marred by repeated disruptions yesterday. On Thursday, tell us, what do we expect today? Do we expect the parliament to function smoothly?
Well, Abhishek, good morning. The parliament faced repeated disruptions yesterday, after which we saw multiple adjournments in both the houses. But only, Piyush Goyal was allowed to make a statement. He's the Commerce Minister of India on the tariff that has been imposed by the US administration and US President Donald Trump of 25% on India. However, yesterday, Piyush Goyal did make it clear that, all these stakeholders are evaluating this and every decision will be taken in the national interest. But having said this, today's parliament, it is also expected that there could be similar ruckus and opposition ruckus or in both the houses, given the fact that the opposition has been demanding a discussion on the SIR, which is the Special Intensive Review of the Electoral Roll in Bihar. And, they have been jumping into the well, sloganeering in the House, in both the houses since 11 a.m. when the House convened. In fact, both the houses, there were multiple sloganeering, opposition jumping into the well of the House, continuously protesting, after which there had to be repeated adjournments. It seems the opposition strategy is clear in this, that they want to corner the government in this particular issue, and they had been demanding a special discussion on the SIR as well. But it is, of course, the Business Advisory Committee, which consists of the Lok Sabha Speaker, the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, I beg your pardon, floor leaders from different political parties that will take part in that Business Advisory Council meeting. And it is decided on that BAC meeting where what are the issues that could be taken up for discussion. But, it seems the opposition is holding the House hostage with their continuous protest and hampering legislative businesses of both the houses. Yesterday, Abhishek, also, we have seen the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha explaining to the opposition parties that almost 11 to 12 hours have been lost in the Rajya Sabha because of this continuous protest in the Rajya Sabha. So did the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Om Birla, mention to the opposition parties that the representatives have been elected by the people of India to raise their concerns on the floor of the House and help the government function with both the houses functioning. But the opposition doesn't seem to be budging to those requests from the chair. And it is also expected today that there could be some ruckus and adjournments as well in both the houses.
Okay, Dibyendu, also, you said, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal spoke yesterday. Give us the sense of what his statement indicates about India's stance on US tariff announcement. And also, he said that India all set to be the third largest economy. Put all this together and tell us what all did he say in the parliament.
Well, Abhishek, he made it extremely clear on the floor of the House that the government is evaluating the decision that the U.S. administration has made on imposing 25% tariff on Indian exports to the United States. So, he also said that all these stakeholders, including the MSMEs, the industries, the trade bodies, as well as the ministries, different ministries that, in fact, the agriculture ministry as well is evaluating the implication of this announcement of this order of 25% tariff. The government will be working on it, and the government will come out with an appropriate response, keeping the national interest in mind. So therefore, it seems that, what we make of the statement is that India or the Indian government is going to come out with something strong. Maybe, also, we'll have to officially wait perhaps for what the government order or what the government's response will be in this matter. But what we certainly understand from the Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal's statement is that India is not going to, budge under any pressure, and that this government will come out strong. As he also mentioned on the floor of the House, that that India is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and we have jumped multiple places in the last couple of years. We are going to become a $5 trillion economy very soon. India's economy is one of the most robust economies in the world. We have a large young population, a large workforce. Our demographic force is extremely critical to the development of this country. So therefore, all these factors will be taken into account when the government gives out an appropriate response to the 25% tariff that has been levied on India by the U.S. administration and U.S. President Donald Trump.
All right, Dibyendu, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for getting us the updates on that story. India's ambassador to the United States, Vinay Quatra, on Thursday announced the opening of 8 new Indian consular application centers across the United States aimed at expanding access to consular services for the Indian diaspora. The Indian ambassador to the US, Vinay Quatra, on Thursday announced the major expansion of Indian consular services in US beginning from Friday.
We are very happy to announce the opening of 8 new Indian consular application centers. These new Indian consular application centers would be in Boston, Columbus, Dallas, Detroit, Addison, Orlando, Raleigh, and San Jose. In addition, we would also be opening another Indian consular application center in Los Angeles very soon. With the opening of these new Indian consular application centers, our presence to provide extensive consular services and related delivery capabilities would increase and expand significantly.
And all the Indian consular application centers will now open on Saturdays as well.
Starting August 1, all the Indian consular application centers will also remain open on Saturdays. Clearly, this would help significantly enhance not just the availability of various consular services, but also their accessibility to our friends from the Indian diaspora.
Ambassador Quatra also informed that India would also be opening another Indian consular application center in Los Angeles very soon.
With the opening of 2 new consulates in Boston and Los Angeles, which the Honorable Prime Minister of India had announced a few months ago, we would be able to further strengthen not just a relationship between our 2 countries, but also our people-to-people ties, particularly in the areas of Boston and Los Angeles.
Now, August 1st, a day when Mahatma Gandhi gave a call in 1920, a call that brought the entire nation together, a call for the first nationwide mass movement against the British Raj. August 1st, 1920, the day when non-cooperation movement was formally launched by Mahatma Gandhi. Do you know about this historic landmark in the Indian independence struggle? Our next report gives you the details.
August 1, a day when Mahatma Gandhi gave a call in 1920, a call that brought the entire nation together, a call for the first nationwide movement against the British Raj. August 1, 1920, the day when non-cooperation movement was formally launched by Mahatma Gandhi. Did you know about this historic landmark in the Indian independence struggle? Let's find out in this video. No, not just a word, but a powerful sentence too. The very basis of this pivotal chapter in the freedom struggle. Let's understand what was the non-cooperation movement. Launched by Mahatma Gandhi, it was India's first massive nationwide protest against British rule through peaceful and non-violent means. It aimed to achieve Swaraj, that is self-governance, by withdrawing cooperation from the British government and its institutions. Mahatma Gandhi surrendered his Kaisar-e-Hind title, urging others to do the same with their British titles, a symbolic act as a direct challenge to colonial authority, setting the tone for what was to follow, a complete non-cooperation with the British. It united Hindus and Muslims, drawing in peasants, workers and women, transforming the freedom struggle from an elite effort into a people's movement. But what led to the launch of the non-cooperation movement? The movement was triggered by a build-up of grievances against British rule. Two of those reasons stand out. First came the Rowlatt Act in 1919, which allowed for the imprisonment of Indians without trial. This was seen as a direct attack on our basic human rights and civil liberties. Just weeks later, on April 13, 1919, the unthinkable happened. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Hundreds of unarmed men, women and children gathered peacefully were brutally gunned down by British troops. Add to that the Khilafat issue. Indian Muslims felt deeply betrayed by British policies towards the Ottoman Empire after the First World War, disrespecting their spiritual leader, the Caliph. Mahatma Gandhi saw this as an opportunity to unite Hindus and Muslims in a common cause against the British. The stage was set for the non-cooperation movement to demand Swaraj. So how did millions of Indians participate in the non-cooperation movement? The call for non-cooperation resonated nationwide. It started with boycotts. Indians boycotted British goods, burning foreign clothes and embracing Swadeshi products like khadi. Titles and honors were boycotted. Indians returned medals and honorary positions awarded by the British. Government institutions were boycotted. Students left government schools to join national institutions. Lawyers boycotted courts. Even legislative councils were abandoned. Women, often unseen, spun khadi. Farmers refused taxes. The aim was to cripple the British administration. Beyond boycotts, the movement also focused on constructive programs. National schools, colleges and private panchayat courts were established. Institutions like Kashi Vidyapeeth, Bihar Vidyapeeth and Jamia Millia Islamia were established. The movement also promoted the establishment of local panchayats to resolve disputes. Millions united across every village and city. And behind all this, the core principle was non-violence. But despite its immense success, the non-cooperation movement came to an abrupt halt. So what led to the withdrawal of the movement? In February 1922, a tragic incident occurred at Chauri Chaura. A peaceful protest turned violent, leading to a police station being set on fire, killing several policemen. The tragic incident violated the principle of non-violence, and as a result, Mahatma Gandhi withdrew the movement. The immediate goal of Swaraj wasn't met. But was the movement a failure? Well, absolutely not. The non-cooperation movement taught us the power of unity, the strength of non-violence, and the courage to look authority in the eye and say, no more. It awakened a sleeping giant, the Indian masses. It laid the foundation for future movements, paving the way for India's eventual independence. And its legacy, a powerful testament to the strength of a united India.
Business updates now. Global stocks mostly fell on Thursday despite strong earnings from US tech giants Microsoft and Meta as markets girded for a key US tariff deadline. While Washington has reached tentative deals with several key countries, dozens of economies, including key commercial partners like Canada, had yet to secure US tariff accords. Major US indices began the day strongly with both S&P 500 and Nasdaq surging above closing highs, but stocks were unable to hold on to gains with all three indices finishing in the red. Facebook parent Meta surged 11.3% and Microsoft jumped 4% after both companies reported strong quarterly results that underscored their strength in artificial intelligence. Microsoft's valuation topped $4 trillion for part of the day, before retreating. Sports updates now. We'll start with cricket. India scored 204 for the loss of 6 wickets against England at Stumps on day 1 of the 5th and final test of the Anderson Tendulkar Trophy at the Oval. On a seamer-friendly wicket, Shubman Gill lost another toss and India were put to bat in the overcast conditions. Indian openers Jaiswal departed early while KL Rahul failed to replicate his earlier heroics in the series. Brought in for Shardul Thakur in the playing 11, Karun Nair held the fort from one end as the 33-year-old walked to the crease at 83 for 3 with India having lost its skipper and batted with patience to bring up his first score above 50 since his triple 100 in Chennai in 2016. Washington Sundar finished on a score of 19 of 45 balls. They will resume on day 2 on an overnight partnership of 51 of 88 deliveries. For England, Gus Atkinson and Josh Tongue picked 2 wickets apiece while Chris Woakes scalped 1. Due to rain interruptions, only 64 overs of play was possible on the day. England is leading the series 2-1. In Macau Open, former world number 1 men's doubles pair of Satvik Sairaj, Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty entered the quarterfinals of the Macau Open on Thursday. The Indian doubles pair defeated Japan's Kakeru Komagai and Hiroki Nishi in a 3-game thriller to the BWF World Tour Super 300 event. Satvik Chirag will now face Malaysia's Chung and Haikal Mohammed in the quarterfinals. Now, 4-time Formula One world champion Max Verstappen has ended speculation about a move to Mercedes next season by confirming for the first time on Thursday that he will race on with Red Bull. Formula One starts a new engine era next year in a major shake-up that could change their pecking order, with Mercedes expected to lead the way while Red Bull are making their own power unit after a split with Honda. Reigning champion Verstappen has known break clauses in his contract, but they have not been triggered, with the 27-year-old third in the standings at the midpoint and with 2 wins from 13 races. Now take a look at the breathtaking sea of clouds enveloped in Mount Hua in Shanxi province, offering a surreal view of China's most precipitous peak. The stunning footage shared by China News Service captures nature at its finest, a spectacular end to our bulletin. And that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.